Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today. My name is Clarissa Gossett and I'm going to do a quick little video on how to create the quilting around an applique or around an embroidered design of any kind. Alright, so first of all, we need to start with an area. So I'm going to draw on my screen using my rectangle or my shapes tools. I'm going to grab the rectangle. I'm going to just click and drag a rectangle onto the screen. I'm going to select it. And then over here in the properties box, this little icon with the arrows pointing out, click there. And we're going to change this box to the size that I want to stitch. So I'm going to put this in a 5x7 frame. So I want to change this box to 5x7. And I'm not going to maintain the aspect ratio. So let's change the width to 5 and the height to 7. And click apply. Alright, so there's our box. And we can kind of see it. Let's double click the magnifying glass to bring it onto the screen. Oh, and a couple things we can do to make it a little easier. Let's maybe make it a brighter color so we can see our box. And let's make the pen width, the width of this line, a little larger. So let's just say 1 millimeter and click apply. There we go. Now we can see our box. Okay, so that's the parameter of, the outside parameter of my embroidery design. Okay, so in the middle I can put any kind of an embroidery design, but for this I'm going to create an applique out of a letter. So I'm going to use my text tool. I'm going to grab the text tool, click on it, click the T again, and then click in the work area. So that brings the text onto my screen. So in my properties box, I'm going to look for TrueType fonts because I basically just want some artwork that I can change into an applique. So I have my TrueType fonts clicked. Okay, and the TrueType fonts are those fonts that are stored in your computer that you would type a Word document with, like Times New Roman, what's some other, Calibre, all those fonts that you use to type with. Alright, so you can preview all the fonts by clicking here. And let's just kind of check this out. We'll go up a little bit, and so we can scroll down and see in the font box a preview of each of those fonts. Well, I ended up using a font called Lovecraft because it's an applique. I wanted it to be a little bit bigger font. So I click Lovecraft. And I want just the outline. Okay, that'll just give me the outline of the shape. Alright, so my box is 5x7. So I decided to make my applique letter about 4.5 inches tall. And then I click apply. Oops, first of all I need to put into the text box my letter, then click apply. There we go. Alright. So this is a little wide. So what I did was I played with the width adjustment and I ended up with 60% for my width. Play with that and see what you like. And then we're going to drag that into our box. With this selected, I'm going to also select, turn on my selection tool, sorry, on the left, turn selection on, select the letter, select the box, and by touching Control on my keyboard, I can grab them both. Then I'm going to use this tool called Align, the drop-down arrow, and click Center Selected Objects. There we go. Alright, so my letter over here is a text at this point. I'm going to right click and break up the text. And for some reason, and don't ask me why, it changes it into artwork. So just know that that's what you need to do. All right, so I'm going to change this artwork into an applique, but I also need that artwork to set the parameters for my quilting. So I'm going to have that artwork selected, and I'm going to touch Control C on my keyboard, that's copy, then Control V, whoops, I need it selected over here, Control C, Control V, and now I've got two pieces of artwork for the letter G. All right, so let's select the first piece of artwork, and then down at the bottom, all I have to do is click my one-click wonder. That's what Miss Kathy Quinn named them. Click Applique, and there's my applique. All right, there it is in 3D. Cool. All right, now I don't need the artwork in the center of the letter G anymore. So I'm going to click that and delete the artwork. Whoops, I deleted the wrong one. Back it up. Let's delete that artwork. There we go. Should be empty. Oh no, I still need the one piece. Okay, so there's my one piece still left. All right, so I have that artwork selected. Now I need to select the box artwork. I'm going to hold Control on my keyboard again, click the box. So I've got both pieces of artwork selected. I right click and combine them. Yay, now I've got the area that I want to quilt. So I select that artwork. I go down to the bottom and I determine down here what I want to quilt it with. Okay, texture are more open and airy type stitches, and stippling are a little more, well, maybe they're open and airy as well. There's just a little difference in the fact that they're more symmetrical type patterns. All right, I'm going to use texture, and I'm going to use this one here. Okay, so there's my texture. Now if I want to adjust it, you can select it here, and the pattern size is 15 millimeters. I'm going to adjust that to maybe 20 millimeters. Click Apply. And so these are farther apart. Since I'm going to use foam instead of batting for this quilting, I want a little bigger area here so it gives it more texture. The last thing I'm going to do is select that quilting, and I'm going to right click and move it to the first. And then we need to delete that artwork. And there we go. So let's watch this stitch out. And I always like to do a slow redraw before I save my design to kind of pre-stitch it to see if it's going to stitch correctly. That looks good so far. Oops, and there's my, we'll do this a little bit slower. That's the placement line for the fabric of your applique. There's the tack down or cutting line for the applique, and there's the satin stitch. Okay, so a couple of things I may do to this applique. Since I'm going to create the applique on top of puffy foam, it'll kind of, the center of this applique will kind of protrude, let's say, or have a lot of dimension to it. I might want a little bit wider satin stitch to hold that down a little better. So we're going to change the width on that satin stitch to about 5 millimeters. All right, and then Let's break up our applique. Right click and break it up. You know what? Maybe I don't need to break it up. Let's select it. And let's go to Applique Extra here. Oh, I don't need to break it up. Okay, so you don't need to break it up. New feature, instead of a single run for my tack down stitch, I'm going to do a double run. That'll hold that fabric firmly in place. And I'm going to decrease the stitch length on that double run to 2 millimeters. Okay, so now when I stitch it out, let's watch. Whoops, keep going here until we get to the applique. Whoop. Keep sliding, sliding, sliding until we get to the applique. Whee! All right, so here's the applique. There's my placement line. And here's the running stitch, that's the cutting line. And notice it goes over twice and we have smaller stitches. And there you go. There's the satin stitch. Okay. Thinking about this, one other thing, sorry, that I might do. I might add some underlay to that satin stitch. So click apply. Because that's a nice wide satin stitch. Might want some underlay to hold it flat. Keep it flat while I'm stitching it out. And let's see, keep going here. Woo. Grab that, there we go. And watch that applique stitch out. Okay, placement line again. Tack down cutting line. It's going to go twice. We have nice small stitches. And there's the underlay for the satin stitch. And then the satin stitch is placed on top. Alrighty, perfect. Okay, so that's how I created the applique and the quilting. And remember, I placed SoFab foam. Well, really quick, explain how I stitched it out. In my hoop I had no-show mesh, or now it's called power mesh. On top of that I placed a piece of SoFab foam with my fabric fused to the foam, my background fabric. Okay, and then I stitch my quilting because that's first, and then I stitch the order of the applique. So in your hoop you've got mesh, SoFab foam with your background fabric fused to it, stitch out the quilting, and then stitch out the applique. Alrighty, thank you very much and happy stitching and have fun with it.